What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward, presented by Raymond. I'm Daniela Bruce, and we'll soon be joined by Art Regner and Carly Johnston. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday. If you miss any of today's show, or you want to catch up on any of the shows that you've missed in the past, you can check out the Word on Woodward YouTube channel, or you can listen to the show as a podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Again, that's the Word on Woodward YouTube page. We have all of our interviews from the past show, the very first show, all the way through. We have all of our interviews on there. It's really cool. So make sure you are checking that out, and also make sure you're liking, subscribing, and turning on your live notifications wherever you watch the show so you don't miss a single second. As always, you guys know we have a great lineup of interviews for you guys today. Kale will be joining us shortly, and we'll have Wings senior content producer Dana Wikiji, a very special edition of Catching Up with Carly with Kids Kicking Cancer. And later in the show, Tigers manager Ron Gardenheider will join Art for the headliner. So without further ado, we're going to get into it today. Let's bring in Art Regner. Art, how are you doing today? I'm really excited that you talked to Ron Gardenheider. I'm very excited to see that interview later in the show.
Yeah, we talked to him yesterday, Daniela. He's doing really, really well. You know, you could tell. You know, we've talked to Ron a couple of times, and I've talked to him, you know, over the last 20 years since he was Twins manager. But he was like in game mode yesterday. I mean, you know, there were things that he had on his mind. So, I mean, he was still excellent and very gregarious young man. So that's a real good interview. I'll tell you, Daniela, I'm really excited, and I know you are too, because the U.S. Open's going on, and I love tennis.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, I'm bummed that my man Rafa, my main man Rafa, the guy that I truly, you know. I would have, if I could, I would have a poster, Casey Mize on this door, of course. Arthur would have to be up there, but right next to him would be Rafa, and then Lou Whitaker. Those are my big three. Those are my big three for today. But actually, the tennis has been great. You know, a lot of, you know, and you know, it's interesting because so many different sports now are starting with that bubble and, you know, and controlled, and it seems that maybe we're getting it down. So. From a sports aspect, that's really, really good. So, you know, as soon as the show's over today, I'm watching a bunch of tennis, and the Tigers are off, and we got great hockey coming up. I have not watched much of the NBA, even though that's everything that everybody tweets about is the NBA right now and what's going on with them. But, you know, when Detroit teams aren't involved, it's kind of tough, except if it's hockey, of course, for me. But anyway, in a nutshell, I'm doing fine, Daniela. I'm doing fine.
Great answer, Art. Great answer.
Yeah.
You mentioned your big three on the day. Let's get into the big three presented by our friends at Chevy. And today, the first topic of the big three, we're going to take a look at the last night's Tigers game. They did snap that 6-game winning streak that they were on. Let's take a look at the highlights. Top of the first, Adrian Hauser getting the start from Milwaukee, and the Tigers did not make it easy on him. Willie Castro at the plate with the bases loaded early on, and it's a soft tap down the first base line. It hugs the line, and somehow this ball stays fair. It rolls probably 15 to 20 feet from home plate, and somehow it stuck right on that line. Incredible. Castro with the infield single and an RBI. Tigers lead 1-0. Jorge Bonifacio now at the plate, and he hits a fly ball to center, and it goes way back. It takes one hop and bounces over the wall for a ground rule double. 2 more runs score, and the Tigers take a quick 3-0 lead. Now the bottom of the first, Spencer Turnbull on the mound for the Tigers. And here's the 2-2 pitch to Christian Yelich. Swings and misses. Turnbull with his first strikeout on the night. Jump to the top of the third, Kristen Stewart up for Detroit with the runners on the corners. He sends this one to shallow left for an RBI single. Candelario trots home. Tigers lead 4-0. Bottom of the third now, and it's Keston Hiura at the plate, and you could hear this one. He sends it deep to center field, and it's gone. Hiura makes this a 1-run game. Top of the fifth, and here is the 3-2 pitch to Willie Castro. He gets a hold of this one, and it's just out of the reach of Justin Smoke, and it's another RBI single for Castro. He's 3 for 3 on the night, and the Tigers have the 5-3 lead. Bottom of the fifth, it's John Schreiber on the mound now, and Omar Narvaez up with bases loaded, and he's going to break the bat on this one, sending it to shallow right. It's just out of the reach of Jonathan Schoop, and a 2 RBI single. We now have a tie ball game. Next batter up, we've got runners on the corners, and it's a line drive. Jonathan Schoop doesn't miss this one. He's got the catch and a heads-up play to get Narvaez out in the double play to end the inning. Bottom of the seventh now, Joe Jimenez on the mound for the Tigers, and it's a tie game. The bases are loaded, and Eric Sogard is at the plate. Here's the 0-2 pitch, and he lines this one deep to center. The catch is made, but it's deep enough for the tag and the score. Brewers lead 6-5. Bottom of the eighth, Buck Farmer now on the mound for the Tigers, and Jace Peterson up for Milwaukee. This ball is sent deep to right center and out of here for a 2-run shot to cushion the lead for the Brewers. It's now 8-5. Top of the ninth and the last chance for the Tigers. It's Victor Reyes at the plate, and there's the swing and miss to end this game. The Tigers snap a 6-game win streak, allowing the Brewers to come back from what was once a 4-0 deficit. Art, this was one of the tougher nights that we've seen from the Tigers bullpen.
Well, it was a tough night, but I mean, I know Milwaukee only had 6 hits, but when you add in the 10 walks and the 2 hit batters, then you're looking at like 18 hits, or that's the way I look at it. You're still giving them bases. I mean, this was a little bit of a sloppy game by the Tigers. I don't know if it was the umpire's strike zone or not. I know that Milwaukee starter Hauser, he was all over the umpire. That seemed to be something that Gibby was talking about the whole game, and Shep. So just one of those weird games. Should the Tigers have deserved a better fate? Well, look, if you keep putting men on base, and especially leadoff guys, if you're walking and walking and walking, that is going to come back to haunt you, and that's essentially what the Tigers did yesterday. I mean, bullpen kind of let him down. The strike zone was kind of all over the road. It wasn't even consistent. That's the one thing you always hear, Daniela. Whenever you go into a room and you want to talk about officiating, guys usually, regardless of the sport, don't say a whole lot unless it's JT Barrett being stopped by Michigan, and them saying that it was a first down in the overtime game. That was a really bad call. That was a really bad call. But for the most part, they will tell you we can handle bad officiating if it's consistently bad, because they're professional athletes or high caliber Division I athletes or whatever. They can handle bad calls or a strike zone. It seemed that the strike zone fluctuated from inning to inning, and that is really, really difficult. And I think that I think that the umpire, unfortunately, and officials should not be part of the game, kind of got into everybody's head, Milwaukee's too. So it was just a strange game and how long did it last? Like 16 hours? I mean, when you have a lot of walks, I kept looking at, my God, when's this thing going to be over? Another ball four, and like, then they're hitting guys. One of those games where, as Henrik Zetterberg used to say, and he said it a lot towards the end of his career, we just have to flush this one out. Just the Tigers flush it out. You're in Minnesota. Have a good off day. The Twin Cities is a nice place, even if you have to social distance. And, enjoy yourselves. You're playing really well. Forget this game. Forget about the umpiring. Forget about all the base on balls. Get back to playing good baseball, because you've got a real tough series coming up against a very angry Minnesota Twins team that you swept last weekend.
Definitely. We will talk more about that Minnesota team as we move forward in today's show. We'll move on to our second topic of the Big Three, which, of course, is our Clubhouse Notes, where we'll bring in Carly Johnston. Carly, Art doesn't seem too concerned with that Tigers loss last night. What was the read of the room for the team and Coach Gardenhire after that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one was a rare loss for the Tigers. It was an unfortunate game, and like Art said, it felt really long, but not too much really coming out of the post-game media scrums last night. Ron Gardenhire and Spencer Turnbull are the only two that talked, but on Gardenhire, he addressed the issue at hand, which is the Tigers are playing way too much defense. So let's hear what he had to say about it in his words.
It was a little bit of labor of love. We just, like I said, when you're out there playing defense and runners are on the bases, it takes away from your offense. We've always said that, and that happened tonight.
Not too much to say about it. He was not happy about the 10 walks, but another one of those defensive players that he was talking about who didn't have the best night that they could have, Spencer Turnbull on the mound, who spoke to the media after the game. He said his mechanics weren't on point and he's feeling a little stiff, so let's hear from him.
Yeah, I mean, I felt really good in the first 2 innings, and then in the third, just started battling my mechanics. Just started to feel like I was really out of sync. Wasn't getting loaded in my legs the way I wanted to. Like I said, I don't think it was the back. Just got out of whack and was kind of fighting myself after that. Stuff was just a little off after that.
Daniel, you asked about what the temp of the room was, and the guys, their answers were pretty short. I think they were a little upset about the game last night, how it turned out. But again, unfortunate that the Tigers couldn't come out with a win, but looking forward to the series against the Twins. I mean, as Art was saying earlier, they swept them before, so I think they could go 2-0 and look to get back to over 500.
I agree with you, Carly. I think this off day will definitely help them, and tomorrow they're going to be able to bounce back with that doubleheader. Thank you so much for that report, Carly. We'll see you later in the show. You guys make sure you're using the hashtag #WordOnWoodward. Carly will be looking all over social media to find some of your questions and comments and thoughts. So, Carly, we'll talk to you later in the show.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Moving on to number 3, our third topic of the big 3 today, Art. MLB Pipeline came out with their rankings of the farm systems around Major League Baseball, and the Tigers system ranks at number 2. If you weren't excited about this Tigers team already, you've got to be pretty excited now. That means that the guys that we have coming up that will be future Tigers are ranked number 2 in the entire MLB.
Well, certainly, again, you have to tip your cap to Al Avila and the Tigers staff. It begins with the general manager and their director of scouting. He puts that whole organization together, and the Tigers have done a great job. I mean, it's one thing to have high draft picks, but the real thing that you really have to do is make sure that they're real players. I mean, you can see how many busts do you see and all that, and it really looks like the Tigers have been hitting, no pun, have been hitting home runs in the draft lately. I mean, when you talk about, the Torkelson and Mize and Skubal and Manning and, Faedo and Riley, and, we can go on and on and on about, positional players. It looks like Dingler is doing a great job down there in Toledo, the catcher from Ohio State. And so everything seems to be coming together. Derek Hill is up, a number 1 draft pick. So I'm encouraged by it. I'm really, really encouraged by it. And I know we've touched upon this before, but that influx of young talent, you saw how the Tigers were a different team when Paredes and Mize and Skubal came up. That kind of gave them a shot and an adrenaline, a rush of adrenaline to the whole team. And I think that's what they're saying is that, when Riley Green steps onto the diamond in the Old English Tea for the first time, Torkelson, Parker Meadows, we could go Cody Clemens. I mean, look, if we're doing this show 3 years ago, I don't know who we're talking about. What prospects we're really talking about. Now it seems it's unlimited. It seems to be unlimited. That is a good sign. I know that Jim Kalis, who is the main guy for MLB Pipeline, puts this together, one of their chief scouts, and we had him on on the headliner. And I remember asking him, do you think the Tigers could get better in a hurry? And he says, no doubt. Maybe not next year, but 2 years from now, he actually thinks that they could be contending for playoff position, which is extraordinary. But that, again, that is a testament to this scouting system. Number 2 in MLB Pipeline? Well, I'm a little distressed. Why aren't they number 1? But aside from that, hey, that's great news. That's good news. Help is on the way. That's the most exciting part of a rebuild, which is disappointing sometimes, especially early on, because there's a lot more losses than wins. But when you start to see it beginning to pay off, and we're seeing that with Paredes and Casey, who's going to get his act together. Arthur's going to be fine. And then, and Skubal, who, boy, he got a clue in that second start. And if that carries over, that guy, my gosh, he's looking like a real deal too. So I feel pretty good. That's encouraging news.
And Art, as you mentioned, Derek Hill getting the call up. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Jacoby Jones is injured, but when you look at Derek Hill, he was impressive in summer camp. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table, and maybe that may even be this weekend.
Right. Well, I would imagine, usually it's like baptism under fire. You call a guy up and you want to throw him in there. Derek Hill, as we know, is a supreme outfielder. So maybe, and I know we're going to get into this a little bit later in the show, maybe if he can show any semblance of hitting, then I think he'll start ball games. But at this point, he might be used as a supreme defensive replacement. He's the best outfielder the Tigers have. Major league level, minor league level. He is by far the best. He's one of the best center fielders in all of Major League Baseball, if you read these reports. We saw what he could do during some of the practice games or inter-squad games that the Tigers played. But if he can hit, then he's an everyday player. If he can't hit, then he's going to be a defensive replacement.
Like you said, Art, we will talk more about the Tigers' upcoming weekend with Minnesota later in the show. That does it for today's Big Three. A big thank you to Chevy for presenting the Big Three. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. We've got a great show coming up for you guys. Like I said, I'm really excited to hear from Tigers manager Ron Gardenhire later in the show. But right now, we're going to bring in the Red Wings radio play-by-play announcer, Ken Kale, for today's mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars. Ken, how are you? Again, I feel like I've gone too long without talking to you. I'm so excited to see you.
Well, excited to see you and Art as well, Daniela. And, as we keep going, the months keep going by, that just means that we're that much closer to Red Wings hockey. So, the playoffs have been terrific. The Tigers are doing well, and good things are happening here in Detroit.
Definitely. And I know you're a baseball fan too, so you've definitely been enjoying this Tiger success here.
What's amazing about the Tigers is if you look at the first half, they gave up a ton of runs. I mean, they were winning ball games, scoring a lot, but they were giving up a ton of runs. What's amazing in 6 or 7 of the last 8 games, they've really knocked down that run total against. And I like good, solid defensive teams. If you can keep those runs down to 3 or less a game, you've got a really good shot at winning a lot of ball games. So, the bullpen's been great. The arms have been terrific, so hopefully that'll continue, and hopefully they can make a playoff spot.
As you mentioned, Ken, as the days pass, we are getting closer to the start of the next NHL season and Red Wings hockey. Greg from Detroit, but living in California, asks, we're seeing a couple of NHL teams start making deals. Should the Wings be targeting anyone?
Obviously, you do want to target some unrestricted free agents, but I think what we have to take a look at is, where are the Red Wings at right now in their rebuilding mode? And right now, I think what's most important is concentrating on the draft and trying to get Red Wings who are going to be future stars in the years to come. Now, with that said, when you look at unrestricted free agents, what does that mean? Well, unrestricted free agents, they want 2 things. 1, they want a boatload of money, and 2, they want long-term to their deals. Now, are those types of players going to want to come to Detroit? Probably not, because the Red Wings aren't going to be willing to do that with those players. But why blame those players? You can't blame them. They played their careers right now. You got to make hay when the sun shines, and this is their opportunity to really cash in and make a ton of money and get a long-term deal. I think if you're the Red Wings, you do have to target some players that are going to help your team, but you have to look at players, I think, that are not making a lot of money and not asking for a big raise. Now, I'm going to throw a couple names out. It doesn't mean that the Red Wings are looking at these players, but what I mean is take a look at Jesper Foster. Jesper Foster makes $1.85 million. He's a guy that you might be able to snare for a halfway decent raise and short term. The other guy is Kyle Clifford, big, strong forward. He could probably help your team. He's at $1.6 million. He's a guy that, isn't going to make a ton of money. You could probably sign him for 2, maybe 3 years, and you can benefit from him. So those are the types of players that I think the Red Wings should target or are going to target. The other part is the middle part. And you look at guys like Evgeny Dadonov, $4.4 million. He's going to want a substantial raise. Now, the Red Wings do have cap room. I mean, they really do because of expired contracts. Dadonov's the kind of guy that could really help your club. If you're willing to give him a substantial raise for short term, he could fit in. Tyler Toffoli's another one. I always liked the way he played. $4.6 million, a little bit of a raise there. Maybe you could snag him and get him over to Detroit. But again, you got to keep in mind the focus of where the Red Wings are at right now. They want to build through the draft. They don't at this point in time want to throw out a boatload of money for long term. And if they want to target players, they're going to have to target players for the short term and try to plug the holes on this Red Wing team.
So really, Ken, it's about kind of bridging that gap, right? You're trying to get these young guys developed and everybody up and playing on the Red Wings team. So no long-term contracts. You want guys that are going to help you bridge that gap that they face right now. So they might be a little bit more competitive, but no long-term deals is what you're saying.
Well, it just looking at Steve Yzerman, Danielle, and Art, I mean, you just look at the way he runs his club right now. He's not going to sign players for long-term deals, not at this point. Now, if the Red Wings were a Stanley Cup contender, then that's a little bit of a different story. Right. I think, and we'll talk a little more about the salary cap later on, but the thing that the Red Wings have right now is they do have money if they want to spend, but on the other hand, you got to be wise about how you spend that money.
All right. Yes, we will talk more about that later in the mailbag. We have a really good question about it. But right now, Art, your question is Tigers related. Alex from Perrysburg, Ohio asks, it's a shame to see the Tigers lose Jacoby Jones, especially after trading Maben. How do you see the outfield looking now? And I know we touched on this a little bit in the Big Three.
Well, I think right now Victor Reyes, who has made some outstanding plays in center field, is probably going to be the everyday center fielder. I would then assume either like Travis Demerit might play right field, and then you're going to have Christian Stewart and Jorge Bonifacio play left field. Now, where does that leave Derek Hill? I think, and there you see Reyes. Look at that catch. I mean, that's one of the best catches you're going to see all season long. He's been just a tremendous pickup for the Tigers, he being Victor Reyes. And then I think that, I think Ron Gardenhire is going to go by gut and feel. There's the other great play that he made, stretching his whole body out. And, when a guy makes a play like that, you always think, is he going to land on his wrists and break it? But, but that was pretty good. I was really kind of guarded when I saw that. So I guess what I'm saying is the key, as I said earlier, will be Derek Hill. Derek Hill is going to play. They're going to play, but is he going to be a defensive replacement? But with Reyes in center, I think ultimately what they would like to have is probably if Hill can hit, Hill in center, Reyes in right, and Stewart and Bonifacio in left. And then you let some of the other guys, Demerit, give him some time in there. I think like Willie Castro plays all over the field, you could even use him. So it's kind of weird. And we talked about the Tigers farm system just seconds ago being, number 2 in Major League Baseball pipelines as the best 2 system. But I think what we're also seeing, we're seeing the Tigers have some depth. And that's a good sign. So even though Jacoby Jones is injured and gone, and they traded Cameron Maben to get more depth into their infield with Short that they got from the Cubs, I think that this isn't a bad situation. But I think the key and would make lessen the blow of Jacoby Jones is what is Derek Hill going to do when he's up at the plate, because we know he can play the field. So right now, I would say Reyes in center, probably Demerit in right, and then Christian Stewart and Bonifacio rotating in left. I think that might be what they're going to do every day. Give Hill a chance, see what he can do. Again, I know I'm being real redundant here, but if he can hit, then maybe you move Reyes to right and move Hill to center, because that is his position. And then Stewart, Bonifacio, Demerit, left field, who's ever hot, let them play left.
A great point, Art, that it's encouraging to see the Tigers building that depth. That's really what we're looking for as the Tigers move forward to building a more competitive baseball team. And Ken, as you mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about that salary cap now. A great follow-up question to what we asked you earlier. Bill from Grand Blanc asked, which will be more valuable to the Red Wings during the offseason, the number 4 pick or the cap room?
Good question from Bill from Grand Blanc. And I think right now at this point in time, the number 4 pick overall is what's key and what's important to the Red Wings. Expired contracts, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Red Wings now have some cap space, and they can play around with that a little bit if they choose. They don't have to spend to the cap. They can, wait for a trade deadline deal or something, but at least they've got some wiggle room there as far as the cap. But to me, the importance for the Red Wings moving forward is the draft and making sure that they make a good selection at number 4 and they make other good draft picks in the other rounds, the subsequent rounds. And down the road, you need to see those second, third, fourth, fifth round draft picks. They're diamonds in the rough, and you need to see them start to shine and grow and hopefully one day be solid NHL players for your team. So, I don't want to say it's easy to pick a top 4 pick, because of all the hype and you really see those players play a lot. But to me, the diamonds in the roughs, if you can find guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that someday become big parts of your team, that's really key. And that's where the Red Wings are right now. I look at it as a bonus. If you have a salary cap that's you've got a lot of space to maneuver with and work with, that's one thing. But again, the Red Wings are in rebuilding mode. They want to make sure that they draft right, draft well, and really make sure that they focus on the players and get them ready to be solid Red Wings in the years to come.
As we know, Ken, Steve Yzerman likes to build through the draft, and you just saw they have a lot of picks in this upcoming draft. So I think you're right that it's going to be more important for the Red Wings to draft well, opposed to using their cap space in the right places there. For the last question, we have one more question for both of you. Art, you can answer first. Corey from Flint asks, I know you've answered this before, but who are the Wings picking for? I've been thinking more about this and trying to figure out if Stützle or Byfield could fall.
Well, first of all, I think Kenny's right on. I think, about free agency, I think if Steve, we always talk about the Red Wings going over the cap. Well, depending on how it works out, they're going to have to hit the cap's floor, not the ceiling so much. I mean, I don't think Steve's not going to spend money just to spend money. I think if they're going to sign a long-term deal, it could be a defenseman. I'm not saying Torrey Krug. I like Kyle Clifford a lot. Toffoli, I like all those guys that Ken mentioned. But I will say this. If they sign anybody long-term, it's going to be a goaltender. I think that would be it. They're definitely going to bring in a veteran goaltender. Bernier is in the last year of his deal. Unfortunately, Jimmy is not going to be coming back, and so that's what to look out for. Who are they going to draft 4th? Well, I'm pining for Askarov, the goaltender, and I know that Steve is. I know that Steve is definitely, because I'm pining for him. I can't believe I was able to get that word in today. That it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So Askarov's probably off the board. I know that Cole Perfetti seems to be the guy right now that everyone's talking about. Size really doesn't matter as it did in the NHL. Most of these forwards that are being linked to the Red Wings are great scorers, but they're not the biggest guys around. So, but that shouldn't matter. So is Perfetti the guy? I am still going to go with Jamie Drysdale. I don't think Byfield and Stützle, if they fall, yes. But Cole Perfetti is the guy that everyone's linked if they go forward. I think that this will be the guy that they would take. I mean, he's got outstanding numbers. He really, really does. And, he could be a very, very special player. But at this point where the Red Wings are at, and they need help all over the board, bringing in Jamie Drysdale gives you so many young defensemen under 24, and many of them right-handed shooting defensemen, which are at a premium in the NHL. I think that gives Steve a little bit more maneuverability. So I would say I'm going to stick with Jamie Drysdale, but if it's Askarov, I would be extremely happy. And if Steve believes that Perfetti's the real deal, that that he can come in and quite maybe even make the Red Wings next season, maybe he would go that way. But I'll say Drysdale at this point. I just think you can't get enough defensemen, right-handed shooting defensemen. He's the smartest player in the draft from what I've heard. He can run a power play, makes a great outlet pass out of his zone. Definitive number one defenseman, number one, not a one or a two, a definitive number one. You put him with Mo Seider. Yeah, I know they're both right-handed. Ken Daniels, I hear you. But but they're good enough where they, the other guy can play the left side. I'm not too worried about that.
So Ken, following that up, I'm with you, Art. I think it is probably going to be Drysdale too if he's on the board. But one thing that we have talked about on the show is the possibility that LA might want to go with the defenseman at 2. And if that does happen, then that would mean Byfield or Stützle will be on the board at 4. Ken, is that a real possibility?
Yeah, it's a real possibility. Anything can happen, but that's where you have to have a plan A, B, and C to see what happens. Then, if Drysdale goes 2, then obviously you've got a good opportunity to pick up 2 pretty solid players in Byfield and Stützle. So, it works out. The Red Wings are going to get a pick. I mean, they're going to get a really solid player at number 4. But I have to laugh because, I watch the NFL and all these mock drafts in the National Football League, and, people go over hundreds and thousands of times, and, all the drafts are totally different. But what really matters is what happens on draft day. And the other thing, too, is we don't know what Steve Yzerman is thinking. And what I mean by that is that he has the opportunity to pick players outside the box. And a good example of that was last year when he selected Mo Seider. Nobody expected him to pick Mo Seider. But the reason why Steve picked Mo Seider is because he liked the way his game was suited to the NHL style of play. Now, we as fans and broadcasters and writers and hosts and everything else, we look at it one way. But I'm going to tell you something. Coaches, general managers, they have in their mind what the long-term goals of this team are and how they want to select players to fit into those long-term goals. That's why when you see a pick like Mo Seider, you scratch your head as broadcasters and writers and everybody else, and you say, how could he do that? Well, it's easy. It's because they see the game differently than we see it. So can Byfield, can Stützle, can they move down? Sure, they could. If you do land one of those 2 players, they're solid players, they're great picks, and they're going to be good pros in the National Hockey League. That's the key for Detroit, I think, right here, Daniela and Art, is the fact that no matter who the Red Wings pick at number 4, this is a deep draft, they're going to get a solid player, whoever it may be.
Art, we've kind of talked about this too, how that 4 spot really opens up. And that's why I had to ask Ken if Jamie Drysdale does go early, are we taking Stützle or Byfield? But you've also mentioned Marco Rossi, Cole Perfetti. There is just a plethora of players that could go at that 4 spot.
Right. Don't forget about, Lucas Raymond, who's getting a lot of play right now, too, the Swedish forward. I could agree more with Ken. You really don't know what Steve's going to do. So if he's going to go outside the box, the biggest outside the box pick, of course, would be Askarov, the goaltender.
You're not getting up on that, are you?
Not happening, Art.
No, when we do our draft day show on October 9th, I'll still be until Steve goes up there, or I guess we'll go to his house, here in the Detroit area, and says, we're picking Stützle. Hey, look. I mean, I've been on that train. I am. I wish I was really good buddies with Drew Doughty, because I'd be calling him every day saying, "Look, man, you need to mentor somebody. You need to mentor a young defenseman." And I think Jamie Drysdale's the guy. You got to get on the horn to Lucky Luke and and tell him, "Look, you guys, we got to draft. We've got to draft Drysdale. We've got to draft Drysdale." But I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, look. I just think, as much as I would like that to happen, because Byfield or Stützle, especially at 4, I mean, that's a great haul for the Red Wings. That's a great pick for the Red Wings. Not that Drysdale wouldn't be, but those guys, those 3 forwards are so much supposedly really a cut above. You have 1A, 1B, 1C, and then there's a big line drawn across it. Well, those 3 guys in that 1A, B, and C category are Lafreniere, as we know, Byfield, and Stützle. That's why I don't think LA is going to do it. LA is looking for somebody for Kopitar too, to replace Kopitar. That guy could be Byfield. I think the way it's going to play out, is Lafreniere is a Ranger, as we know, and I know Gary Bettman's doing cartwheels down Broadway on that one. And then I think Byfield is going to be good. I think Byfield will go to the Kings. Stutzla goes to Ottawa, so we're going to see him a lot. And then I believe Jamie Drysdale. The way this board is put together, I think that's how the top four is really going to go out. If Steve throws a monkey wrench in it, maybe he goes to Perfetti if he really likes one of the forwards, because they do need goal scoring. And then if he really wants to think outside the box, he'll be at his home. He'll be sitting there, be in his Red Wing gear, and the Detroit Red Wings draft with the 4th pick. This is for you, Art, buddy. Yaroslav Askarov, Soviet Union. Oops, I'm not the Soviet Union. Unless he has a mind, unless he trips and starts thinking about the Cold War. He just watched like a movie or something, a documentary on the old Soviet Union. He would say Russia, of course.
Well, as Ken mentioned, the Red Wings are going to get a great player at that number 4 pick. And you guys, that draft is sneaking up on us. October 9th, of course, we'll be here breaking all of that down for you. Ken, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's always great to chat with you.
All right, Daniela, Art, always good talking to you guys too, and we'll catch you down the road.
See you,
yes,
Kenny.
we will soon, Ken. A big thank you to Little Caesars for delivering the mailbag. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. We're going to talk more NHL playoffs later in the show with Red Wings senior content producer Dana Wakiji. And for the headliner, Art will be joined by manager Ron Gardenhire. Very excited for that one. But right now, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Carly has a very special interview today.
It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm joined by founder and director of Kids Kicking Cancer, Rabbi Mlb Goldberg. How's it going, Rabbi?
It's great. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure is all mine. Okay, so I wanted to talk in recognition of Childhood Cancer Awareness taking place on Saturday. And I want to know, how did Kids Kicking Cancer start?
My first teacher in the world of pediatric oncology was our daughter. At the age of 2 years old, she was diagnosed with a leukemia, which unfortunately in 1981 was not the very treatable disease it is today. She was an amazing little girl. She would tell the docs at UCLA during a bone marrow transplant, no medication today, please. And she'd tell the 5-year-old kids in the clinic not to cry. So she was my first teacher. And a number of years later, I found myself directing a camp for kids with cancer. And I came upon this 5-year-old child in the infirmary being held down by 2 nurses. The third nurse has a large syringe to plunge into his chest. It was so counterintuitive to me. He was screaming something awful. I just yelled, "Wait!" And they all stopped. Even the kids stopped screaming, and they looked at me. I didn't have a clue what I was going to say next. I just said to the nurses, "Could you give me 5 minutes with this child?" And they were happy to leave. The little boy looked at me like I was the governor. I had just stayed his execution. And I walked over to this child, and I said, "I'm a black belt," which doesn't mean anything. The little kid said, "Wow." I said, "You want me to teach you some karate?" He almost jumped off the table. I explained to him, in the martial arts, you learn that pain is a message you don't have to listen to. You can breathe in this amazing chi, this energy, and push out pain and fear and all the bad stuff. Watch me. And 5 minutes later, we're doing a simple Tai Chi breathing technique. 20 minutes later, they took the needle out. And he looked up at the nurse and he said, "Did you do it yet?" And that's when Kids Kicking Cancer was born.
That's beautiful. What an incredible story. So that's how it started. Can you tell me about where the program is at now?
So we began our program with 10 children at Children's Hospital of Michigan. This was 21 years ago in 1999. And now we're seeing children in 93 facilities in 7 countries, with our goal to lower the pain of 1 million children by the end of 2025. So we're now spreading through Africa. We're working with kids who have 0 pain medications. And we're teaching them how to use their powerful breath and to push out darkness and pain and fear. We installed at the beginning of COVID routers in African hospitals to stay in touch with our children when we couldn't physically go in. But ultimately, teaching the children that they have this power, that they have this light, allows them to not only self-regulate, but our mantra is power, peace, purpose, that the children, when they do this and they push out pain, fear, and anger, we ask them, what's your purpose? And children all over the world yell out to teach the world. They become teachers. We've actually done functional MRIs, brain scans. I'm also a clinical assistant professor in pediatrics at Wayne State University in the medical school. We've done brain scans looking at the children's brains. After 4 interventions, the centers, the amygdala, the posterior cingulate cortex of the brains that indicate pain and fear and anger, they change. Why? Because the children are able to feel this power, and then they have a purpose to teach the world.
I love that. The power of positive thinking. That's really impactful. Speaking of impact, you kind of explained to us the scientific way it helps, but what's the impact on the children personally?
You know, when these children know that they are world-class teachers and their pain is lowered, all of a sudden their lives change. Rather than becoming victims of a disease, they actually become victors. And for all your viewers, this is not just for children with cancer now. We've created a hero circle with children of all different challenges. Even going into the cities and working with children who have toxic stress response, we teach them that they can bring in this light. They're actually helping our kids with cancer. So that gives them a purpose. And we've created this ability for them to do the breathing. And then we show them that they can regulate, so they recognize that I'm the boss of my brain, that they can take control. We've even done a study with heroin and fentanyl addicts. We're just ready to publish our study, where they were inspired by our children how to breathe in the light, blow out the darkness, and self-regulate. We've literally had people walking on the streets of Detroit to get their fix for heroin, get a message on a phone app from the children that says, time for your breath break. They breathe in the light and they blow out the darkness. Then they take control over their beast. They thank the children on the app, and they've walked away from the heroin.
Wow, that's incredible. So with that, what are some messages that these children can bring to our viewers?
I want to tell you the story about a boy by the name of Bernard. There's a group called the Optimists. They make a wonderful party for us every year. And there's probably a group called the Pessimists as well. Those are optimists with experience. But the Optimists made a party for us, and this goes back 3 years ago. And Bernard, not yet 11 years old, is being pushed by his twin sister to the front of the audience. And he asks for the microphone. In a loud voice, he says, "Hey, my name's Bernard, and I want to thank all you optimists for making us such a great party. And I want to thank Kids Kicking Cancer. You guys are our family. But I want to teach you what they teach us in Kids Kicking Cancer, because every one of our kids is a teacher. I want to teach you how to breathe in the light and blow out the darkness. And I want you to know, no matter what you face in your life, you can breathe in the light and blow out the darkness." And then he proceeds to teach them our breath break. And he says, remember, no matter what you face in your life, you can breathe in the light and blow out the darkness. And then they gave me the microphone, and I had to take a breath break myself, because we all know that Bernard's mom ran away when he was a little baby. His dad died when he was 8 years old. His uncle died when he was 9 years old. And that was here he was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor that was slowly stealing any movement from his body. And this little child in the wheelchair with those beautiful smile is telling everyone there, no matter what you face in your life, you could breathe in the light and blow out the darkness. After I took my own breath break, Carly, I said to the audience, I want you to know, Bernard Johnson just defined optimism. But optimism does not mean that everything is going to be great. It means we could respond to everything with greatness. And that's what the children of Kids Kicking Cancer teach every single day.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible, Rabbi. You're definitely making a difference in these kids' lives, and in turn, they're making a difference in other people's lives. How can people get involved? How can people help out with Kids Kicking Cancer?
Please come to our website, kidskickingcancer.org. Kidskickingcancer, one word.org. Plenty of opportunities to learn from the children, at the same time help us lower the pain of millions of children across the planet.
Beautiful. Rabbi Goldberg, thank you so much once again. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Power, peace, purpose.
I love that. I will always remember to breathe in the light and blow out the darkness. I really appreciate you spending the time to talk with me today on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Rabbi Goldberg, keep up the good work. I love what you're doing for the kids.
Thank you, Carly. That was a very inspirational interview, and I agree with you. Everything he's doing for the children is amazing. So keep up the good work. Now we're going to get into Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. And of course, we're going to bring in Carly for this too. You guys, the Tigers are heading into Minnesota to face the Twins for a doubleheader tomorrow. They've got a day off today, and we know that the last time they faced Minnesota, they swept them at home, which was last week. So when we previewed that series, I talked a lot about how the injury-riddled Twins would have some trouble against the Tigers, but were injury-riddled. That's the key statement in that sentence there. In the past few days, they have activated 3 big pieces with former AL MVP Josh Donaldson, former Gold Glove center fielder Byron Buxton, former All-Star pitcher Michael Pineda, and they have 3 additional players ready to come off the IL. That's just amazing that's such a long list of players, and really notable players at that. So Art, with 5 games, 5 games coming up against Minnesota, what sticks out to you heading into this weekend?
Well, I think what's really sticks out to me is the Tigers' offense. I know we've talked a lot about pitching, and rightly so, but they've won 6 of their last 7 games, and Tuesday's 12-run outburst. It marked the 4th time this season that the Tigers have scored 10 or more runs in a game. Last year in the full 162 game schedule, they only did it 5 times. So, I mean, their offense is really picking up. The Bengals have now scored 7 or more runs in 5 of their last 7 games because the offense has come to life. The Tigers in their last 5 ball games lead the American League in hitting, on base percentage, slugging percentage, which is a really testament to way these guys have decided that, hey, we've relied on pitching, we've kind of let these guys down, and they've really, really picked it up. So, when you can lead on base percentage, slugging, average, and OBS, I got to tip my cap to them. I really have to say that the Tigers offense has really come to life. They scored 5 runs last night and kind of left some ducks on the pond, as they say. But pitching kind of let them down yesterday. The strike zone was all over the board. They gave up a lot of walks, 10 walks. You're not going to win many games that way. But offensively, and it was still good to see with 5 runs. Now, I want to give you another stat, which is really interesting about where the Tigers' offense was. Last year, in the month of August, their team batting average was 261, their on-base percentage was 318, and their slugging percentage was 433. So obviously, right now, 321, 385, and 532. I got to tip my cap to the offense. I think the offense has come alive, and really going to need that. You win and lose as a team. We've been in enough rooms. We've covered enough rooms that that you hear that guys all take accountability. If when you bring up one aspect of a game that isn't going well, players don't want to hear that. They say it's all of us. Well, right now, okay, pitching wasn't great last night. Obviously, 10 walks and 2 hit batters, but offensively, the guys still scored 5 runs. They got some big hits. They're still getting it together. And so that's what I've got to say. To me, I still think, Minnesota's going to be they're going to be tough. The pitching matchups are, going to be rough for the Tigers, but I think they have confidence, and they've shown that they can hit the baseball now. And, Jonathan Scope, he's going to be all psyched up, right? I mean, he's going back to Minnesota. Gardy, spent 23 years with the Minnesota Twins organization. The last 13 as manager. When Gardy goes back and when Scope goes back too, that invigorates the rest of the team because they know that's an important spot for them. That's his old team. That's Gardy's old stomping grounds. And so this is going to be a big series. What's great about it is, and from here on out until the season ends, and hopefully it ends with a playoff run by the Tigers or a playoff berth, every series they're playing right now in this 60-game schedule is absolutely huge, and none is larger than this one with the Twins. So the hitting has to continue. I think it will.
Definitely. So Art likes the hot offense, which even in that loss, like Art said, has been pretty good. Through 5 innings, they were great. So I don't think that's anything to worry about there. And especially with an off day today, rest up, take some time to recuperate, and they'll come back tomorrow. Carly, what will you be looking for this weekend?
Well, of course, like we've been saying from the top of the show, I'm looking for a repeat of last weekend. The Tigers have a doubleheader coming tomorrow, and just like last Saturday, they're going to have Matthew Boyd on the mound for game 1 of the 7-inning game, especially in the of 12 games in 10 days. Oof. They are hoping for a repeat performance with Matt Boyd going 6 innings, allowing 1 run with 6 strikeouts and 0 walks. So it would be a different story than what we had last night. And one other note about the Twins is that they are in the bottom 3 in slugging against lefties. So I like the matchup of Boyd against the Twins. It's looking good for me.
Carly, do you notice any other good pitching matchups for this weekend?
Well, I mean, my only advice would be to avoid pitching to any players with Nelson or Cruz in their name. We can see a little pattern there. But he's been a thorn in the Tigers' side for years. But all kidding aside, the Twins will see all the Tigers pitching. So you look to carry the confidence from last weekend with Daniel Norris, who's been playing well, and Tyler Alexander pitching well, and Skubal getting his first career win. And cheers, here's from Casey Mize hopefully getting his first career win on Sunday.
Definitely. It's going to be an exciting pitching rotation for the Tigers this weekend. Art, let's go back to the X Factor. We talk about this in every show, and heading into this series with Minnesota starting tomorrow, who is going to be the X Factor for the Tigers?
Well, I don't know if you guys are big fans of Pick the Stick, what they do on Fox Sports Detroit before every game, and how our good buddy Matt Shepard is always picking Jonathan Scope and has like a 30-point lead. My Jonathan Scope, in honor of Shep, and my X Factor, and you can pencil this in, he's my X Factor for the whole season, is Victor Reyes. Victor Reyes is the X Factor. I just absolutely love this guy. And get this, when he's down in the count 0-2, his batting average is 412. 412 with 2 strikes. I talk about Lou Whitaker all the time, why I like Lou so much. I always thought he was the best 2-strike hitter I've ever seen. And he led off, and Reyes has been leading off for the Tigers too. I mean, he makes contact. 412 on an 0-2 count is absolutely fantastic. In that 12-1 victory over the Twins, and I want to make sure I got this right, so I actually wrote this out on my computer, which keeps freaking out on me. So give me a second here. He in the 12-1 victory, he was 4-6 with a double, a home run, and a career high 5 runs batted in. Reyes has hit safely in 11 of his last 12 games, and he's batting in that span. He's batting .312, on base percentage of .348, slugging .516, with 20 hits, 2 home runs, and 10 RBIs over that stretch. With the way Reyes has been on fire and his impeccable defense, I know I said Romine's the MVP of the Tigers. I'm almost going to switch it to Victor Reyes. I mean, this guy has been absolutely fantastic. He's been a godsend. Sometimes you need players to carry a team. And with his bat and with his leather, or with the glove, Victor Reyes has been able to do that. Not bad for a Rule 5 draft pick. Take it to the bank, Daniela. Take it to the bank, Carly. I know you both, you love to gamble. You're all excited about PointsBet Sportsbook being our new sponsor here. So, I'm telling you right now, Victor Reyes is definitely the X Factor.
I love it. I love that you're passionate about it, but you've seen how well Shep has been doing with Jonathan Scope, right? So that didn't, persuade you in that direction at all?
Well, Scope is a ball player. He's hit over 20 home runs the last couple of seasons. He's been a wonderful find. Just imagine if CJ Cron were healthy, what that side of the infield would look like. Because the Tigers have suffered some big losses, yet they're still playing good. Which goes back to my point before, is that there's depth on this ball club. Why are they better this year? And I know it's COVID-19 has changed everything, but in a 60-game schedule, they're showing that they have depth. I mean, you trade Cameron Maben, you lose Jacoby Jones, you lose a CJ Crone from last year's team. They might have set the American League record for losses. They set it, several years ago at 119. They had 114. You lose that. Those would be devastating losses. And they are. And I'm not taking anything away from those players or anything, from trading Maben away. But what I am saying is that there's still hope. There's still a ray of light. They've got to continue to play better. That's why the offense is key. Pitching has to pick it up a little bit. The starters, maybe, and that's going to happen. So, I mean, that's a good sign. That's what I really like about this Tigers team is that, they have suffered some really guys, Jordan Zimmerman goes out for the whole year, Ivan Nova, boom, he's gone too, and yet, they have the young kids step in. I mean, that would be devastating. That's devastating for a lot of clubs, and it's not for the Tigers. It really isn't. If you think about it, they're 17-17. And all the injuries that they've had, all the bad luck that they've had, some of the inconsistencies in their game, which is baseball. Baseball, there's inconsistencies, all the time. But what I'm saying is this is a good sign. You then you throw in, another guy who's, a kind of an X factor too is Willie Castro.
Yeah.
Willie Castro, where can't he play? I would be surprised if the Tigers keep walking batters, if Gardy doesn't come out to the mound one time and Castro's playing third and goes, here, you can do just as well as these guys. you're a pitcher now, I mean, he's that versatile, and he's almost like a Rule 5 guy too. So, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing from the Tigers. Now, the bottom could fall out, and next week at this time, they could be on a prolonged losing streak. I don't think that would happen, but I'm not disappointed. The Tigers have given me enough entertainment right now and a lot to look forward to in the future that regardless of how this season ends, I mean, and there's I can't believe that. How many games left are there? Like 26 or something?
I have to do my math.
Well, you didn't go to Michigan State, so if you need to bring out a calculator, Carly, go ahead. I think it is 20. I think it is 20. So they played 34, right? Add 34 and 26. What do you get?
Stop it, Ara.
60.
There you go. Whoa. Oh, you said that with such conviction, Daniela.
Well, I thought you were trying to trick me for a second, so I had to make sure that I was confident enough to, I don't know. I always have to think about with you, Art. You might be like pulling one on me or something. I don't know. I had to make sure.
I have to give you props. That was quick math. So I have to give you props.
Yeah,
well, I did a math problem correctly, so that's where we're going to stop this segment for today. That Bet You Didn't Know. Bet You Didn't Know is presented by PointsBet Sportsbook. The PointsBet Sportsbook will have the latest odds at pointsbet.com. PointsBet is the official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. We're going to talk some more social media with Carly Johnston right now. Carly, what have you seen around the social media world?
Well, I'm going to start off first with Illich Companies, who just really said they're doing an awesome thing. The Detroit Tigers and Detroit Red Wings have announced a partnership with the Michigan Secretary of State's office to support the United States presidential election and encourage voter participation in Detroit and throughout the state of Michigan. So see that they tweeted that earlier. For more information, head on over to the Illich Company's Twitter to check out that link to the article. And then on to the Red Wings. Philip Zadina, he's back on Twitter, and he made his debut by tweeting that the best hockey fans, of course, are from Detroit. I mean, we already knew that, right? But great to hear it from Z, and welcome back to Twitter. And then for the Tigers, following Kristen Stewart's home run on, I believe it was Tuesday, he threw up the Wakanda sign, Forever Wakanda, in honor of late Chadwick Boseman, who played the Black Panther, a pivotal role in the superhero world. Once again, don't forget to submit your questions. We'll answer them later on in the show for the bigger Let's Socialize segment. Daniela?
Thank you, Carly. That's right. You guys make sure you're using the hashtag Word on Woodward. Carly will be all over our social media channels looking for your thoughts, your comments, your questions, anything for Let's Socialize later in the show. You guys, we still have a huge interview for the headliner with Tigers manager Ron Gardenhire coming up later. But right now, we're going to talk some more Red Wings hockey because, as Philip Zadina just told us, we've got the best hockey fans in the entire world. So for Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light, today we're going to bring in Dana Wakiji, senior content producer for the Detroit Red Wings. Dana, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Daniela. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing really well. And one of the reasons is, Dana, both of our picks to win the Stanley Cup, Colorado Avalanche, have forced a Game 7 after the win last night. They've had some goaltending issues. Hutchinson played so well. So what do you think? Are you feeling the same way I am?
Hey, they've got the momentum on their side for sure. So we will see.
Well,
and, they've got the best player right now in Nathan McKinnon. He's leading everybody in points. I don't know if you guys saw the Sportsnet tweeted out a little stat a little while ago that he's got, God, how many points now? He's got 25 points in his first 14 games, which is the most since Wayne Gretzky had that many points in his first 14 playoff games. So I thought that was pretty impressive anytime you're in the same company as Wayne Gretzky.
Well, yeah, when you're talking about the great one, but, let's be honest. Then we're talking about Michael Hutchinson, and he cannot be used in the same sentence as the great one. I mean, Hutchinson is kind of a journeyman goaltender. The only thing that I like is that Toronto traded him, and I think he's won more playoff games than Toronto has this season. I should probably double check that, but Hutchinson has played really, really well, so you have to be happy for him. I mean, he's been in 3 games in this playoff run. He started 2. He's 2-0. He has a save percentage of .938, and his goals against is 1.86. And and Dallas didn't get a whole lot of shots on net. And I don't know if the Stars are starting to feel it or not. They're not known as a really offensive juggernaut, but Hutchinson has really lived up to the billing. This tweet here, his first 2 career postseason wins in games when facing elimination: Jacques Plante, Robbie Moore, Frank Pietrangelo, Wade Flaherty, Manny Fernandez, and Michael Leighton. There's some pretty, Jacques Plante, obviously, without question, one of the greatest of all time. So he's making history, but I really think that, Dallas, watching it last night, I think in a weird way, if you watch what the Stars were, they're sitting there, it's kind of like, I can't believe we're losing to this guy. How can we be losing to Michael Hutchinson of all people? But that's what happens. Dana knows this very, very well. Ken Holland has this, his recipe for playoff success is your best players have to be your best players. There's 4 steps to it. Your goaltender has to play lights out. You have to be basically injury-free, and you need a little bit of luck. So, and 2 of those 4 are Michael Hutchinson right now. I mean, he's playing lights out, and Colorado's lucky because this series could have been over. And so we'll see, and again, there's some, Khudobin has played really, really well for Dallas, but, Rick Bowness keeps being asked, the Dallas coach, well, you're going to play Ben Bishop? Are you playing Bishop? Are you playing Bishop? And he said again last night, he's unfit to play. I don't know how many times he has to say that, but he keeps saying it over and over and over. So we're going to see guys that weren't expected to be in net in a crucial Game 7 in both ends of the ice. You'd think like Khudobin was the guy that you would give the nod to. Okay, well then Dallas is in pretty good shape. But with Hutchinson playing, I mean, my gosh, I mean, you have to, this is going to be great. It's a Game 7. It's a Friday night. The crowd is going to really be into it because they're all piped in. And so it should be great. Look at that pass by McKinnon now. I mean, that is world class. Nathan McKinnon could be right now, no offense to Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, but he could be the best player in hockey going right now. I mean, that pass last night was good. But, I don't know. I know you two are like, bringing out the Avalanche blue and maroon or whatever the hell their colors are. And, you're all real happy about it. But not so fast, young ladies. Not so fast. I'm telling you right now, Don't sleep on the Stars tomorrow. Don't sleep on the
not.
Stars.
We're not sleeping on the Stars for sure.
Yeah,
But Nathan McKinnon definitely is in the conversation for best player. Definitely.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, that kid is, he's a very, 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 very good high. And, and he's doing what he's doing. Going back to Ken Holland's theory, your best players have to be your best players. He's pretty much taken the Avalanche, put them on his shoulders, and, is driving that bus right now, and he could be driving them to the Western Conference Final.
And what you said is true, because if Dallas wants to win this series, then guys like Sagan, Ben, they've got to be the Stars' best players, because they haven't been the last couple games.
Dana, another Colorado Avalanche player that has been impressive throughout this whole series. And I know you're a big fan of Kale Mccarr, the rookie. He's been playing lights out, and that is another reason that Colorado has been able to force this Game 7.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, and I think it's exciting because, he was the 4th overall pick. So maybe the Wings will have that kind of same luck, that in a few years they'll have a Kale Mccarr on their hands or somebody close. And the other thing that's exciting is, this kid is 21 years old. And along with some of these other young defensemen, it's really exciting in the league to see what he's doing, what on the other side, what Miro Heiskanen is doing for Dallas. In fact, Heiskanen leads all defensemen in scoring with 19 points. And then, of course, you have University of Michigan's Quinn Hughes for Vancouver, who's not even 21 yet, and he's playing extremely well for the Canucks. So it's a great time for good young defensemen in this playoffs.
Yeah, Dana, you mentioned. Go ahead, Art. I knew you were going to have a follow-up. Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, if you look at it, Heiskanen has 19 points, Mccarr has 15, and Quinn Hughes has 14. And those are all, those all have exceeded what the rookie record was for points going into for a Stanley Cup playoff. Now, I love Heiskanen in his draft year. The Red Wings were drafting ninth, and they took Michael Rasmussen. And I remember talking to Craig Button about it, and he was all over Heiskanen. He says, this guy, he's going to be a premier defenseman. He's talking to me about it. And I said, well, what are the chances that he drops to the Red Wings at 9? And Craig Button gave me one of the best quotes I've ever heard. He goes, if Miro Heiskanen is there at number 9, if he's there at number 9, Ken Holland will rival Usain Bolt as far as sprinting up to that podium and taking him. He goes, because there's no way it's going to happen, but you are going to see him dart up to the stage, and he would beat Usain Bolt. That's how quickly Ken Holland would go to make that pick. That's how much they love him. That's how much they want him. And obviously, he's proven it in Dallas. I mean, and again, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. That's why I'm not so sure that you can sit on Jamie Drysdale at 4. Unless you really think Cole Perfetti or Steve goes out of the box and takes Askarov. I don't know how you can not take Drysdale. Everything I've heard about him, he is cut in that Mccarr and Hughes mold. Heiskanen's a little bit different player. He's a little taller. He's got a great skill set. And at the end of the day, as much as I love Quinn Hughes and Kale McCarr too, Heiskanen could be the best of his generation. I mean, he is really that good. He is really that impressive. But that's why I think the way the defensemen are and Drysdale, Hiskanen's big, McCarr's like kind of average size, and then Quinn Hughes is not very big. Drysdale falls somewhere in the McCarr category, right-handed shooting defenseman. So I just think that I think it's going to be tough for him at 4. I know I'm all over the road here, but those 3 young defensemen are almost making me lean towards Drysdale for sure at 4.
Well, Dana, let's use that as a little bit of a transition. Talking about Quinn Hughes, and we're talking about Vancouver and Philadelphia. They both managed to stay alive. So those 2 teams will be playing tonight. Of those 2 teams, I know you liked Philadelphia a lot too. What team do you think has the best chance to force a Game 7?
Really, it depends a lot on the goaltending. Like whatever goaltender has the hottest night, of course, that's the one that's going to win. I mean, but we've seen some weird things go on in the playoffs. So it's hard to say. Philadelphia does need a little bit more, I think, from Giroux and maybe Voracek for them to really get past, the Islanders. And the Islanders are going to need Barzal to play for sure. I know he's game time decision, and I know Couturier is a questionable thing for the Flyers tonight. So the Flyers definitely need Couturier as well. So I still think probably it's more likely that the Islanders will win that game.
Yeah.
I think with Barry Trotz, well, look, I mean, Philly was a team, don't sleep on the Flyers, I was saying before this all started. Carter Hart, I think has played pretty well. He's going to have to be outstanding. Dana's absolutely correct. I mean, in order, I think, for this Flyers to win this series against the Islanders, I think they're going, Carter Hart's going to have to be the difference. He really is, because, a Barry Trotz team, they're defensively sound. They don't give up much. They wait for your mistakes. And I just think that, it bodes well for the style that the Islanders play and the coach that they have. But Carter Hart could be the difference, certainly in that series. And then in the other series, obviously, Thatcher Demko. I'm wondering, I'm sitting there thinking, do you think he was named after Margaret Thatcher? Because Thatcher is not a real big first name. You don't hear many people named Thatcher. But
You don't.
I mean, that kid is, he's been great. That last game, Vegas, the Golden Knights
Unbelievable.
fired 43 shots at him. He made 42 saves. They win 2-1 when they're facing elimination, a save percentage of .977. So, as long as Demko can be doing that, and Robin Leonard and Marc-Andre Fleury, who, has seen some action in this series too. I mean, the goaltending's been pretty good. Markstrom, but these are two really high-end, high-caliber clubs. What I love about this series is that these teams go up and down the ice. They're not shy about being aggressive offensively. That's what I really, really like. And that's why, again, going back to Dana's initial point, that's why goaltending is so important. Whoever gets the best goaltending, and you got to think, Thatcher Demko, can he do it twice? Well, Michael Hutchinson's been pulling it off for
I was just going to say, he wants to be the next Michael Hutchinson.
Right. So, maybe it can happen. I mean, in a crazy playoff year, maybe that's what's going to happen. When it's all said and done, the Islanders win the cup, and Thomas Greiss, of all people, is like the MVP of the playoffs or something. Nothing. I wouldn't put anything past me. Right? Yeah. That's just the way it is.
It's definitely exciting. Dana, before we let you go, I want to ask you one Tigers question, because I know that you spent a lot of time covering the Tigers as well. So you have to be pretty excited with the way that they have been playing lately, and they've got an off day, big series coming up with Minnesota. Just really, how excited are you? Are you amped that the Tigers are competing in September?
Oh, definitely. They're a lot more fun to watch. And I'm going to be honest, I tried watching them last season. I did, but it was a tough watch. This season is completely different. I think they're a lot better defensively. They're fun to watch. I'm a little sad that Cameron Maven left, because I remember when he got drafted and they brought him up and we got to meet him when he was just a kid. But so he's a great kid. But I love Ron Gardenhire. I've always loved Ron Gardenhire, way back to when he was with Minnesota. I would literally go over to the Minnesota clubhouse just to talk to him and to Torrey Hunter and some of the other guys, because they were just a nice bunch of kids. So I think there's a lot of things that are going well, and obviously Jonathan Scope has been fantastic. And I think some of these young pitchers getting this experience is absolutely invaluable for the future. So even though they might be struggling a little bit now, they'll still benefit from it in the long run. Because if you remember when Justin Verlander first got into the big leagues, his first few starts, he didn't do that well, especially against Cleveland. And then he's become an unbelievable pitcher, Hall of Famer to be. So it's great experience, and it's going to be fun to watch the rest of the way.
It is. We're excited. And Dana, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's always great to catch up with you. And we will definitely be having you back to talk more about the NHL playoffs. So again, thank you. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Tigers fans, we've still got a lot of baseball to talk in this show. Of course, manager Ron Gardenhire will be joining Art for the headliner later. But first, we're going to get into Brush Street Beat, presented by McLaren Healthcare. And we are just going to take another look at this series with Minnesota coming up for this weekend. And Art, the first thing I want to talk about with you is the pitching rotation that we are going to see against Minnesota. And Matthew Boyd, obviously, getting the start tomorrow in the first game of the doubleheader. Remember, the doubleheader games are 7 innings. We're not sure who will be starting that second game, but Saturday we'll see Tarek Skubal. Sunday we'll see Casey, better known as Arthur Mize, and Monday Michael Fulmer, who will probably be another piggyback start. Looking at this lineup, Art, who are you most excited to see? I have to tell you, I'm excited to watch Matt Boyd pitch again because his last start really seemed like he was the Matt Boyd that we expected him to be at the beginning of the season.
Really, if you look at his last 3 or 4 starts, you can see him slowly coming out of it. And, maybe he's arrived. Obviously, it is Matt Boyd. I mean, he's going to set the tone for the Tigers. If he can go deep into this game, and remember, those 7-inning games, he could pitch a complete game. If he's really on and shutting the Twins down, I mean, that would help out the Tigers bullpen. And then I think it would make it a little bit easier for Gardenhire to decide who is going to start that second game. That's kind of a question mark right now. And I think a lot of it depends on what the Tigers are going to do with that second game, is how well Matt Boyd pitches. If Matt Boyd pitches well and continues on the trajectory of going up where he is right now, I think that, it would be great to start off a 5-game series with the Twins with Matthew Boyd pitching very, very well and leading this team to a victory. I think that sets the tone. That takes the pressure off of Skubal. That takes the pressure off of Mize. Fulmer and Norris, that seems to be enough. I like the way that's working out. The last time out, they had 11 strikeouts combined. So, Fulmer slowly but surely, he's not going to be where he wants to be. We know that. But that'll be cool. And Norris, I know he gave up a home run, the first time, last time out. But when you look at that, those many starts, I think that's, I feel good about it. I really feel good about it. But it all begins with Matthew Boyd, because if Boyd can pitch a 7-inning complete game, I mean, that's on everybody's Tigers wish list, is that he does that, wins that first game, sets him up nicely, the rotation, even if you have to use a couple guys in your bullpen maybe to get through the game number 2. Again, it's only 7 innings. That's a key. I mean, that is a big, big key. We forget that. So we're talking 14 innings as opposed to 18. It only sounds like a 4-inning difference, but that's a lot. That's taxing. 4 innings is really taxing. So I like the 14-inning games, and but Boyd is the key. Boyd is the key. The 7-inning games, way to go. Doubleheader. Maybe baseball will adopt that in the future. You never know. That would speed the game up, especially after last night's game. Did that game end yet? Last night's game, is that over yet?
That was a long one. I remember flipping away, and then I went back, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's only the bottom of the 4th. What's been going on?" So yeah, that's how that game went for me.
When you're walking 10 guys, you're throwing a lot of pitches, and then they're fouling pitches off, and you're thinking, oh man, I mean, this game was like going, it's like, my gosh, I mean, it's going to be breakfast time before this game was over. It was a long one last night, but again, Daniela, I couldn't agree more with you. Matthew Boyd, he's going to set the pace, and you know what? And what I love about Matt Boyd, when we've had him on, he knows it. He knows that. That picture of when they called up Mize and Skubal, of the 3 of them sitting there all masked up in the dugout and talking, that's the kind of leader that Boyd is. He's talking to those guys. He's pumping them up. He's trying to give them the lay of the land, so to speak. And now Boyd is Boyd knows that if he can go out on the bump tomorrow and pitch hopefully a complete game or a very good 6-inning game, and then give it over to Soto or whomever in the bullpen to close the game out, that would set the Tigers up nicely for a very, very, very big series against the Minnesota Twins, who are getting healthy and are going to be angry when they see the guys come out in that old baseball cap with the orange Old English D on top of it.
They will be. Art, I did want to touch on Tarek Skubal really quick too, because Dan Dickerson was on the show. I think it was Tuesday. He's on a lot. So I think it was Tuesday's show that he said, working with Jim Price, he heard Jim Price say that Tarek Skubal is one of the best left-handed pitchers, if not the best, that he has seen come through the Tigers organization. And obviously that is a very small sample size when it comes to Major League Baseball games. But I don't think we talked enough about that statement, because that's a huge statement coming from Jim Price.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, he said his stuff is the best he's seen. And let's be honest,
Right.
I pointed out the fact Mickey Lolich wore 29 for the Tigers. Jim Price caught Mickey Lolich, who is, I don't even think is the best left-handed starter in Tigers history. I really do. Mickey, so that's quite a testament for him to make. And what I really, really liked, and I know I brought this up with Chef about Tarek Skubal, is that from his first start to his second start, he seemed like a different pitcher. He seemed like a different pitcher. He has supreme confidence. He has the stuff, though. He has the velocity. He knows he can throw it by guys, and he calmed himself down, and it is electric. And you could see where a guy who was rated ninth drafted ninth, kept moving up the charts as far as Tiger prospects. You could see it. I go, wow, this is kind of a weird name, at that point, because I watched the show Power, I was calling him Tariq Skubal, but it's Tarek Skubal. I kept seeing it over and over, and he kept ascending. He kept going up and up and up, and I can see why. I mean, his stuff is electric. He's left-handed, and when Jimmy Price says something like that, who is not prone to exaggeration, he really isn't. Jim's a real straight shooter. When he said that, you're right. And you have to perk up and you have to listen to it. And again, I think he wears 29 for a reason. I don't know if he has some sort of sentimental value with that number, but I think if we're up to the Tigers, they gave him 29 because that's Mickey Lolich's number. And if he can be the left-handed starter that Mickey was, then, Tigers have quite a find in Tarek Skubal.
Art, there's something else that you've mentioned a couple times during this show, the Rule 5 draft. So I want to talk about that, expand on it a little bit more. For people that don't know, just in case we are listening or we have people listening that don't know, players drafted at 18 or younger need to be added to a club's 40-man roster within 5 seasons, or they become eligible for the Rule 5 draft. And players drafted at 19 or older need to be protected within 4. So somebody very notable that the Tigers picked up in the Rule 5 draft with the first pick in 2017 was Victor Reyes. And I think the biggest point to make here, Art, is that some of these really small moves that might seem insignificant at the time that they're made can really make a huge difference in building a baseball team.
Well, right. I couldn't agree with, more. I mean, I really like the Rule 5 draft. I mean, really what it's designed to do is that really good organizations can't hoard young talent. You either have to give them an opportunity, either put them on your roster, or you're going to have to make them available in the Rule 5 draft. Now, the thing about the Rule 5 draft is, and you can see it over the years, the Tigers have drafted guys that are Rule 5. They have to stay on your major league roster. They have to stay on your big club that entire season if you draft them, if you take them. They have to be there. So Victor Reyes didn't play a whole lot, but he was on the roster. He was on the roster, and I can remember, he would come in and they go, well, he's a Rule 5 guy. They're going to see what they have in him. The Tigers really like him, but they didn't play him a whole lot. They just let him be on the roster, because if you don't, then he has to go back to his club. Meaning, in this case, Reyes was at Atlanta, I believe. I'm going off the top of my head. He'd had to be returned to the Braves if the Tigers didn't keep him on their roster the whole year, and they did. And thank God that they did. The latest Rule 5 draft is Ronnie Garcia that the Tigers have right now that they got off the Yankees. And, it's really in descending order. When the Rule 5 draft happens, the team that has, unfortunately, the worst record, in this case, the Tigers, you get to look at all the Rule 5 guys that are out there, and you get to pick somebody. They picked Ronnie Garcia. They picked Victor Reyes the year before. And I think that what's really good about this, or what's interesting about this, is that, baseball's the only sport I think that does this. You can have a second round of the Rule 5 draft. If another team wants to pick, and it doesn't happen very often, But let's say, you go through, you give all like 30 teams or whatever the chance to pick a Rule 5 guy. Well, then the Tigers could say, well, hey, we're up again. And if we have somebody we want to pick, and other teams could do that. It doesn't really go that far. It's not a real deep draft, but it's been really, really beneficial. And I think Victor Reyes and our good buddy JP Morosi, John Paul Morosi, tweeted out that Victor Reyes could be the best Rule 5 pickup in a decade. And so, and he's really proving it, and he's a real interesting case. I think the Tigers were like his third team that he's been part of. Before the Tigers picked him up in Rule 5, he was traded a couple times. I think Arizona was in there, maybe the Marlins, and then I think the Braves, and finally, he's here in Detroit. So he's a player that's intriguing. Teams have always wanted him, and I think the Tigers were fortunate enough to pick him up in a Rule 5 draft because, he looks like, and I know I'm being real redundant, but he looks like the real deal to me. I mean, Victor Reyes, Ronnie Garcia, he's come in and he's performed admirably. He's going to go nowhere either. So Rule 5 benefits teams, and the way the Tigers have drafted lately, you have to think the guys that they're picking in the Rule 5, they do their homework, that these are legitimate ball players that have a chance to be Detroit Tigers for a long, long time. I love the Rule 5. I love the Rule 5 draft. I really like it. I really, really like it. And I think it's a good idea. That way, like a team like the Yankees, who are, no salary cap in baseball, they could keep all their young talent and hoard them up and just pay them, a king's ransom just to stay there. But I like the fact that baseball wants to have some sort of competitive balance because they don't have a salary cap. I think that, Rule 5 is one way to do it. That means that like Riley Green has a couple of more years before the Tigers have to put him on. First of all, he's going nowhere. He'll never be a Rule 5 guy. But but that could happen. That could happen.
Well, I was actually going to say that, Art, because the Tigers do have so many young prospects in their system right now. Is that something that they will have to worry about eventually? Is that because they're all kind of similar in age?
That's a great point. You've got to think, though, we heard too much about Cody Clemens and, the Parker Meadows, Jake Rogers. I mean, these are guys that are all part of the mix. Could they lose a player in Rule 5? Yeah, certainly. I'll tell you, not to keep mixed things here, but, the Red Wings faced this in the waiver draft because, they kept them overripe. There were certain times where guys were out of eligibility, minor league options. So the Red Wings had to expose them to the waiver wire just right after training camp and before the regular season started. I think everybody that they've ever exposed to the waiver wire has been claimed by other teams. Martin Firk was claimed by another team. They've always get claimed by other teams. They'll take a chance on Detroit prospects because the Red Wings have drafted so well over the years. And if you look at it, the Red Wings are facing it with Evgeny Svechnikov. Svech has to make the team this year, or he is going to go into the waiver draft, and he has to clear waivers. That's very similar to what the Rule 5 draft is. It gives young players who are in a system and maybe buried a little bit, or teams want to hide. It gives these kids an opportunity, as you explained, to play. And obviously, when they get that opportunity, just imagine Victor Reyes is probably thinking, God, this has been on 3 teams now, and what am I really doing? Everyone seems to like me, and I'm getting playing time. And then boom, he comes to Detroit. He's on their roster for a year, doesn't play a whole lot. Now he's getting an opportunity, and he could be a potential all-star. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but no, I'm not. I think he could be a potential all-star.
I don't think so either. You never exaggerate, Art.
No, God, no. I'm not prone to exaggeration ever. No.
Well, that does it for Brush Street Beat today, everybody. Brush Street Beat is presented by our friends at McLaren Healthcare. So a big thank you to McLaren for presenting Brush Street Beat right here on The Word on Woodward. You guys, I've talked about it a couple of times. Ron Gardenhire coming up shortly. But first, I did want to remind you of a contest that Miller Lite is running. The Tigers and Miller Lite are teaming up to give our fans the chance to win autographed Detroit Tigers and merchandise and some Miller some great Miller Lite gear. Enter online to win one of 72 Miller Lite home run kits from now until October 12th. So make sure you check that out. There's some really great Miller Lite and Tigers stuff in those packages. You'll definitely want to check that out. That runs through October 12th. But now, as we've all been waiting for, let's toss it to Art and Ron Gardenhire.
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. Let's bring in Tigers manager Ron Gardenhire. Ron, thanks for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. I guess you've been having a pretty good time lately. I mean, the Tigers are playing some pretty good baseball.
Yeah, it's been fun. Everybody's chipping in, getting our starters going a little bit, and our bullpen's been fantastic, and the offense is coming around really nice. So we've got a lot of good things happening.
Well, I really want to get into the Tigers. I don't want you to think I'm a complete weirdo here, but look, you were born in Germany, and it says you were born on a couch. Is that true?
I was. My dad delivered me on the couch. And, he might have slapped my mother. But yeah, I was born there. My older brother was born there also. So my dad was military for 23 years. So pretty cool. I have a German birth certificate.
Really? Do you really?
I do.
Wow. But now I would take it, and then we'll get into the Tigers. If you're born in Germany and you have a German birth certificate, are you an American citizen because your dad is in the military? I guess what I'm asking, Ron, could you run for president?
Yeah. Probably not. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I have an American birth certificate also, so
right.
It's kind of dual. I just, as a kid, just brought it. My mom brought it home and saved it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, really. No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, let's move on to the Tigers. Obviously, we're doing this on Wednesday before you play the second game against the Brewers in Milwaukee. Currently riding a 6-game winning streak. When this airs tomorrow, hopefully it's a 7-game winning streak. But I guess I'm curious. Jacoby Jones going out. Second year in a row, he unfortunately breaks his hand. He worked so hard to get to where he was today as a player and a real integral part of the Tigers. Is that a moment where you as a manager, this isn't about baseball, you put your arm around him and just, say, hey, you've done it before, you can do it again? I mean, how difficult is it when you know this guy's really, really in pain mentally and physically?
Yeah, he was, in a rough spot yesterday, really disappointed once he found out broke. And then that's, some good stuff happening, as far as the medical part goes. He's definitely got it broke and he's going to get it fixed. But some good things have been talked about. So maybe it won't be as long as we originally thought, him being out. Who knows if he'll make it back before the end of the season. But, there's some pretty good talk going on that, maybe they can fix it and get him back out there.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but he could be ready for the playoffs.
Well,
Jacoby.
who knows? I mean, it just depends. Once they fix it, right?
Right.
Then we see how his rehab goes, and you go from there.
Well,
we always got to keep a glimmer of hope.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm an optimist, so I'll definitely I'm right there with you. I'll be optimistic too. With that said, I know you called up Derek Hill today. I knew the original plan was Travis Demeritte to go and right, Victor Reyes, who's we know can play center field, and then a platoon system of Bonifacio and Stewart in left. Is that still your plan, or will Derek Hill see some time?
Well, we just mix and match them all. I won't leave him sitting on the bench. He's not going to help me at all if he doesn't get at bats, and he's a above average defender. So like tonight, I've got Bonifacio out and right. Just the matchups, you start looking at it against this pitcher, what they throw, and Bonifacio in right and Victor in center and Stu out there in left. And we'll start that way to game. And then as we go along, if they bring in a left-hander, we'll probably pinch hit the Stu with somebody like Demeritte, and we might move our whole outfield around again. So we're just going to mix and match like we've been doing, kind of going through, all the good matchups for us.
I told you this before. Years ago when you were Twins manager, you came on a radio show that I hosted every time the Twins were in Detroit. You were a guest. I hosted it with Doug Karsh. Besides you telling me you loved the Michigan football helmet, you talked about Twins baseball, and why the Twins were so good was from the moment a guy was drafted, he learned how to play the Twins way. And I'm kind of curious, and it's always stuck with me. do you see similarities with what the Tigers are doing right now with what the Twins did back then, which is really create a system that churns out players and usually is competitive year in and year out?
Yeah, that's what this organization has started doing since I've been here, and I'm sure they were doing it before I was here because they've had a lot of great players. The one thing we didn't do in Minnesota was really go on the free agent market. We believed in developing our own players, drafting as good as we can and developing them, and that's what the Tigers are doing right now. And it's going to show because we've drafted a lot of really talented people. This is going to be a good organization. It's going to get stronger and stronger.
Well, the reason I asked you that was because, I started the season, why not the Tigers? 60-game schedule, that was like my battle cry for the Tigers this season. The 9-game skid, was a little bit alarming because I'm thinking to myself, wow, what's going to happen here? Because when the Tigers in the past have started to lose, they can't stop the bleeding, so to speak. This team has been able to do that. Is that because they have replenished it? There is depth. There is something. I mean, Jacoby Jones is out, but that next man up mentality, the Tigers can actually do that, whereas opposed in the past, maybe they couldn't.
Yeah, we've added a few talented veterans to come in. Our young players have gotten better that are up here, are playing better, another year of experience and all those things. And you have to have that mentality. You've got some guys out there that really are getting after it pretty good, and a couple of leaders in that clubhouse. Snoopy's really good leader. Cabrera's really loud now. He's happy. He's swinging, and it's fun to win. And these guys have been a part of winners. And sometimes you got to teach, some of the young guys how to win. How about doing all the little things right? If it's getting a runner over, get him over. Give yourself up and do it. And we've been doing a lot of good things like that, taking advantage on the base pass. And that all comes with experience, but also that drive, the drive to not give up anytime. And that's what they're doing.
How easy does that make your job? I know it's a difficult job, but when everyone is on the same page where you don't really even have to say too much, everybody knows what needs to be done.
Well, that's the best part. I've got a great coaching staff that, believe me, they're constantly walking around, if they see something they don't like. We talk to the players. We're open about it. Hey, you got to run the ball out. You should have been on second base. And they'll agree, yeah, I should have. I dogged it out of home plate. That if they hold themselves accountable and understand what we're trying to do and talking to them, it works out pretty good.
When I look at when you brought up Casey Mize and Skubal and also Isaac Paredes, it seemed to be, I knew it breathed life into the fan base, but that seemed to kind of rejuvenate the team, regardless of how they performed on the field. But do you agree with that? I mean, when you add an influx of young talent like that kind of gets everybody a little bit jacked up.
Yeah, that's telling you that this organization sees that we can do some things, add the right people, and get our young players up here for our fans, but also for our team. These pitchers are going to be good. They're, like Mize is kind of scuffled getting out of the starting gate right now. Skubal had a great performance his last outing. And Mize still hadn't kind of figured it out yet. He's overthrowing the ball a little bit, but that's the growing pains. But these players see this, and they know that that's the future of this team. Paredes and Willie Castro come up here and stepped right in and been a big part of it. So there's a lot of good things happening in this club along with the veterans.
When I look at your starting pitching, obviously it looks like Matthew Boyd, and we weren't worried about Matthew Boyd. He was going to turn it around. But the Fulmer-Norris combination, do you like what you see, especially when Fulmer had his high in Ks? I mean, together they struck out 11 Brewers on Tuesday night. I know Norris gave up his first home run of the season, but that seems to be working out nicely. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and we're just with Fulmer, we just want to get him through the year. He's missed a couple of years of baseball, so we don't want to push it. We don't want to, end up hurting himself again. And then Danny just needs a pitch, and this is good stretching him out because he is the kind of guy that can come in and get a big lefty out if you need that too. But stretching him out kind of keeps him. If something happens to one of the guys in rotation, he's already up to 60 pitches. We could throw him in there. So that there's twofold. The same way with Alexander. If we have to have a spot start because somebody can't make it, we got these guys that can do it too.
Well, there's so much I want to ask you. I know we have you on limited time here. I want to move to the bullpen. I know Joe Jimenez has kind of struggled a little bit. Is it now Soto, or will it still be bullpen or closer by committee? Or is that pretty much how you're going to go?
Yeah, we're just going to kind of find the hot spots. When you go along, you get the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. You figure out where the beefest part of their lineup is, and that's kind of where you throw 100 miles an hour at them. If that happens to be the end of the game, we'll do that. Fortunately for us, we've got a number of guys throwing the ball really well. Cisneros been throwing great. Buck's come back. Now he's throwing it. Saw Brian Garcia get a big out. So we've got multiple people that can get people out and finish off a game. And Hemi came in and got the biggest out of the game, when we were playing the Twins. So, and getting their big boy out, Cruz. So we'll get Jimenez back in there. All we want to do is get his confidence back up. But, we're going to get him in there today. Probably is a good day for him. Maybe throw a complete inning, that type of thing, and go from there.
Victor Reyes, the Rule 5 guy, I really like this Rule 5. The Tigers seem to, do their homework when they pick up somebody in the Rule 5 draft. Victor Reyes, I guess I would imagine his play. Are you surprised because he hasn't played a heck of a lot coming into this season, or have you always seen something in him? Because he's certainly a complete ball player.
Well, we saw him grow last year. I mean, here's a Rule 5 guy, and all of a sudden you're watching this guy play, and he just got better and better. He got stronger. He worked and worked and worked. He's tireless. He doesn't take a lot of walks. He's up there hacking. But when you hack and you get hits, that's impressive because he'll swing. He'll swing out of the zone. He'll swing at some up above it. But he gets hits. And defensively, no matter where you put him, he goes out during BP and Shag runs balls down, and he does the same thing in the game. So he's just a game-on baseball player. We've got a good one here. They did a really nice job, Rule 5, with this kid. He's grown up, and he's getting stronger, and he can play.
Now, Tigers are in the thick of things. They're obviously can make a legitimate playoff run, and they're playing meaningful games here in September. Do you have a message specifically to this team, or do you just let them go out and play? I mean, because there's always seems to be some managers or coaches are constantly in the ear of their players. Other times they take a step back. Managers take a step back and say they're professionals. They know what to do. What kind of style do you have, especially right now where the Tigers are in contention?
Well, I've always been a cheerleader. I'm hooting and hollering in the dugout like everybody else. If I see something, if I tell one of my coaches, hey, got to run the ball out, and I might tell them to go over and talk to him. Or I walk down through the dugout and tell him, let's go. This guy, he can't beat us. This guy cannot beat us. So, you're all those little things. And we have a lot of fun in the dugout, believe it or not, because the things that we hear from the dugout, our players saying, that's entertainment. And they keep me laughing and smiling, and that's my goal. My job is to keep them up and motivated and wanting to come to the ballpark and have fun. And that's what we try to do.
Brian, I know tomorrow you have an off day. It's in Minnesota. You were there for 23 years, last 13 as manager. I don't know what you can and cannot do on your off day with social distancing, but are you looking forward to going back to a place that obviously means so much to you? Yeah,
I still have a house there, and my daughter's there, so I'm allowed to go there. My daughter really doesn't want me to come because she's in the health business. So she's nervous that we're coming home, but I tell her I get tested 2 days in a row now. I've been tested. So, it's good to go home, get to see her. She's been by herself. She's not married, and she's living in my house free. You can't get any better than that. So she's doing good.
Well, that's good. Now that you have a house there, we always hear about players when they go back to their hometowns for the most part. They go home to their parents' house and sleep in the bedroom they slept in as a kid. Do you stay at your house, or will you stay at the team hotel?
Well, like tonight, we're getting in at 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'll stay at the team hotel. And then my wife will come and pick me up. She's in town too, so she'll pick me up and we'll go over there. My daughter will be at work, and I'll go check the house out and take her dog to McDonald's and get a sandwich, that type of thing. So it's all good.
It's just the dog getting the sandwich, Ron, or are you going to have one too?
My wife and I like them too, so that's okay. But the dog loves them.
I guess that's a good testimonial for McDonald's. Yeah. Finally, it looks like you're having fun. I know that you got to roll with the punches. At this point, if you could leave maybe impart words of wisdom for Tiger fans right now, because I think, with the addition of some of the young arms that you added, the way some of the veterans like Scope, I know Chrome was a big loss. Cameron was traded, and, Jacoby Jones, but can you give them just something imparting what you really want them to know about their Detroit Tiger baseball team?
Well, it's a really good group of guys that really care for each other. And if you can just see it walking around in there, there's little areas where social distancing, and the music's flying around, and a different guy gets to pick it every day, which that's why I closed my door. So, it's a good bunch of guys that care, and they know how to play. And they root for each other really, really hard during the game. And you don't get guys all mad because they're not playing that day, or at least I don't see it, because they just want to win baseball games. And we got some veterans, Shoop and those guys that know how to do that, and they're kind of leading the way along with my coaching staff. So it's a fun, and we're having fun. But a week ago we weren't having fun. So that's how the game can go. It can go so up and down, and it all depends on how we're going to do against these really good teams we're playing right now. We're playing some good teams.
Well, certainly playing some good teams, but don't sell yourself short. The Tigers have been playing some good baseball. It's been a pleasure to watch them this season, Ron. That's a testament not only to the players themselves, but obviously to you and your coaching staff. Continued success. Thanks for joining us here on The Headliner. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, that'll do it. That is The Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer, only 96 calories, and it is delicious and available for delivery. Danella, back to you.
Art, how did you just say my name? Danella?
I think I put a little bit of an accent on it. I heard that too. Denala. Gives a little more flavor to it.
That's actually how you say it.
Right.
Family say it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So so I was channeling in your Italian side there.
Okay.
We're both Mediterranean. We both have Mediterranean blood coursing through our veins. Yours happens to be Italian, mine happens to be Greek. So yeah. So we're kind of blood related in a weird way.
Yeah. I don't know if that's how it works, but we'll roll with it. A reminder, guys, that Art did talk to Ron Gardenhire yesterday before the game. So that was great, Art. Really enjoyed talking to Ron. Right now, we're going to get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And of course, bring in Carly Johnston for this. And one point I did want to make about that interview, Art, he was talking at the end there about how the team has a great relationship. They take turns picking music like most teams do, but he shuts the door. And I couldn't help but think, what kind of music does Ron Gardenhire listen to?
He's from. Man. That's a good one, Carly. I don't know what. I would think, he was born in Germany, so he probably listens to that, that heavy metal thrasher German rock. Probably. I mean, that might be in his blood. Wouldn't you say country? I guess. I think doesn't everybody? They say listen to country music.
To listen to country. I can see him. I can see him listening to classical music. Oddly enough, sitting in his office, just like some Mozart, Beethoven. I can see him vibing to that.
I think old school country, like Hank Williams Jr. or something like that.
I'll tell you, Carly, that was impressive. Mozart, Beethoven, I'll tell you, eating that broccoli is paying off. That must be big brain food for you.
Brain food, it
is. I like classical music. He probably listens to classic rock, don't you think? He's really of that age. He probably likes the Stones, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Who. Probably goes down that road. Aerosmith on the American side, the Doors. We would have to ask him, but don't trust me. Country music. You should watch that Ken Burns. I don't know if it's like a 6 or 7 part documentary on country music that came out last fall. Country music's been around a long, long time. So I think that, that seems to be the hot music form right now, though, isn't it? I mean, everybody I know, I look at the young Red Wings when I go in the room and they like country music, and I'm thinking, ooh,
like
that?
Like Johnny Cash, and it begins and ends there. I don't even, that's
Johnny
not even
Cash,
the same
the Man in Black,
as they have this time of day. I mean, it's like, what? I drove my tractor and I break my beer, and I just can't get behind it.
Carly
Anyway,
sounds like
my love left me.
I basically just put out a country record.
Yeah, Carly Johnston definitely sounds like a country singer name.
Right. That's a hit. That's a hit right there.
She apparently has crackers, so I think it all works.
Imagine
Yeah, really,
me.
you know.
You love beer too. I love
The
beer.
farmer's tractor. I like beer. I just want country.
All right, Carly, I'm not interrupting you now.
All right.
All right.
So let's socialize. All right, we got the first question up for you, and I have a feeling this is going to get you going. So let's get right into it. We had a fan ask, do you think Toronto will draft your boy Askarov with the 15th pick from the Penguins? Do you guys also like how I really emphasized the T's in Toronto? I don't know where that came from.
Toronto.
I think that Toronto, you know what, they could. They definitely need goaltending. You know, certainly that is a bone of contention. I know they have Jack Campbell now there as the backup. You know, good Port Huron boy. He, you know, he plays pretty well. I mean, he could still, you know, goaltending is all over the place. You know, guys that are, you know, the backup guy, David Ayers, whatever, from, you know, beat the Leafs this year with is the third goaltender. I mean, it's really tough to say, but yeah, I could actually see Askarov being drafted by Toronto if he lasts that long. If Steve doesn't take him at 4, and unfortunately he's not, but if Askarov doesn't go, if the Red Wings don't take him, I don't think he's going to be there at 15. You know, I think he's a legitimate top 10 prospect. You know, he's considered to be the best goalie since Carey Price to come out. You know, I think he just has a huge upside. I really like him. He's big. He's athletic. You know, he's aggressive. You know, I like the fact that, you know, he catches with his right hand, which doesn't happen too much. You know, I think that kind of throws shooters off. They're usually, you know, on that side, it's usually the stick side for most goalies, and, you know, it's his glove hand. So I really like him. Could Toronto do that? Let's put it this way. If he's there at 15 with all the goalie issues that Toronto has, yeah, I think that, you know, definitely, you know, because defense has always been a problem for the Leafs, and, you know, they always talk about it. They, you know, they bring in Tyson Barrie. They're trying to get, you know, everybody, you know, they're trying to get always the next savior on the blue line, and it sort of works out, and it sort of doesn't work out. You know, Morgan Riley now is their big guy, and I understand that. But if you have a great goaltender, a guy that can steal and win games on his own, and Askarov, trust me, is in that category. Hey, at 15, I would think that, you know, let's put it this way. The Leafs, you know, Kyle Dubas, you know, picks him at 15. Then Brendan gets on the phone. Brendan Shanahan calls up Yzerman and just starts laughing. And just hangs up, you know. And then Stevie goes, "Damn you, Shanny! Damn you!" But, you know, it's kind of like Charlton Heston. Could you tell I just watched Planet of the Apes? But anyway, but anyway, yeah, I could see it happening. And the short answer is yes, I could see it happening.
The short answer is yes. Solid goaltending definitely leads to a solid team. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, a good goalie can cure a lot of your team's ills, especially if they can win games. And Askarov is in that category.
We know that all too well. All right, moving on to question number 2. Daniela, we got a good question. Do you think the Tigers will bring Mabin back next off season? As we know, Mabin's been back and forth with the Tigers a few times. So what do you think?
Well, following trend, you would want to say yes, right? Because it seems like he always finds his way back to Detroit. But I think, and this is no knock on Cameron Maybin, because I think he's great, and I think he's a great guy too, and the Tigers really liked him for other reasons than what he brought on the field. But we've been talking about the depth of the Tigers today, and I think that's something that you really need to look at when you look at this question. Looking at the outfielders that we have now, Art has talked about this a lot today, that there's depth there. They have Victor Reyes, Jorge Bonifacio, Travis Demeritte, Christian Stewart, and now Derek Hill being brought into that mix as well. And then you look at the farm system, and Riley Green and Parker Meadows are both down in Toledo. So my answer would be no. I do not think they're going to have to make a move to get another outfielder in Cameron Maybin, especially. And hopefully he just has a lot of success with the Cubs and he can stay there.
Yeah, definitely wishing him Godspeed. He brought a lot to Detroit. All right. Last but not least, this is something the Detroit Red Wings posted on Instagram saying, choose your adventure. A, you're a goalie and Datsuk is coming in on a breakaway. B, you're the last D-back. What do you do? Danielle and I answered. Danielle said, cry, pray, and hope that I come out with both of my ankles. I said, pull myself and let him get the empty netter. Art, I didn't see you comment on it, so I want to know. Would you pick A or B, and what would you do?
Okay, wait. Now A is I'm the goalie and he's breaking in on me, and B is I'm the last defenseman back. What do I do? I would say this. I would say that either way you're going to lose because he's going to embarrass you. Because he's the magic man. He's a magician with the stick. He makes all kinds of moves. So what I would do is I would, which leads me to a really interesting story. And this will be really, really quick. How good was Datsuk? Adam Foote, who was a great defenseman for the Colorado Avalanche. Datsuk's his first year or something like that. And Datsuk's playing and he makes a move on Adam Foote, goes around him and scores a goal. And Foote skates back to the Colorado bench, but he has to go by the Red Wing bench. And he just shakes his head and just starts laughing. And all the Red Wings laughed and said, hey, man, we see it in practice every day. You know what I mean? And, that's the kind of, and these are heated rivals. That's the kind of thing that, as fans, we might miss on the ice, but I remember the players were just talking about how Foote just shook it. Sometimes you do have to tip your cap to the opposition. So what I would do is I would be the last defenseman back. I know he's going to beat me, but at the end of the day, I can always blame it on the goalie. Hey, man, he made a great move. But you're the last line of defense, pal. What the hell happened to you? I mean, I tried my job, and then you let us down. You didn't pick me up. Make him feel guilty. That's being a good teammate, by the way. If you blame your goalie, no. I would be the defenseman.
There's no way I want to be in either one of those scenarios. I'd just be like, I see him coming. I'm just gonna go to the bench. I'm done. I'm good.
No, I think I sort of misunderstood that too. I don't know, because I guess in either situation, I would cry, pray, and hope that I keep both of my ankles because it's a potential that you could break them. Even the goalie, he could break the goalie's ankles too. I don't know what I would do. Like you said, I would hope that I never have to do that. Any hockey player sorry for you.
What you really should do, if you're the defenseman, you should try to poke the puck away. Because he's going to be playing around with it. That would be
exactly.
Hopefully you have a long reach or something. Try to poke the puck away. And even if you're a goaltender, you've got to get the puck off his stick somehow. Because if he's allowed to dipsy duel and do all that, and the puck is on his stick like a magnet, he's going to make you look bad as a defenseman. He's going to go right around you somehow. And obviously, he's going to make you look really, really bad as a goaltender. You should check out, I'm sure they're probably on YouTube, check out some of his penalty shots or breakaways against Marty Turco when Marty Turco was in Dallas. Marty Turco hated Pavel Datsuk. And I don't know how far back that goes. And Datsuk was not a big fan of his either. So when they would match up, I mean, he would get, and I'm going to be Daniela here. Turco would get PO'd when Datsuk would score on him, and Datsuk really wanted to score on him. It was kind of a battle. So the key, I guess, if you're going to try to slow down the Magic Man, is try to somehow poke that puck away.
Yeah, somehow is the key word. He's, they didn't coin the nickname Magic Man for no reason. He's definitely that puck. All right, well, I just had to hear what you were going to say about it, Art, since Danielle and I already gave our 2 cents. But, all right, that's all I have, you guys, this time. This has been a good one. Lots of laughs. My cheeks hurt. On that note, I'm going to sign off.
Do. After this, they always do. Thank you, Carly, as always.
Have some broccoli.
Oh, yeah, and make sure you work on your country song, too. I'm expecting that by Tuesday.
I thought I already had the top hit. I drove my tractor.
Carly,
you have one line.
Relax with a glass of wine. Have a little Debussy or Mahler, or extend your classical realm. Beethoven's cool. Go Johann Sebastian Bach. If you like harpsichord music, that's the guy for you. Just relax. You'll have a good time. Classical music is hip. It's cool.
I'm a classic rock girl.
Classical rock?
So her and Gardy, that's they hang out. They listen to classic rock.
Yeah,
together.
we hang out, we jam, we do a little, one of these.
Oh, wow.
We listen to
Well, you have the hair to do it. That's for sure. You and Danielle are both.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. You guys know why.
Yeah, Danielle's
Why, Danielle? Why, Danielle? What would happen? What would happen to your hair if you were like thrashing with it? Be careful. Be careful.
All right, we're done. We're done again. Thank you, Carly. And a big thank you to AAA. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Got to catch my breath after that one. It's always such a fun segment. But you guys, we have come to the end of the show again today. If you did miss anything or you want to catch up on some past Word on Woodward editions, you can visit the Word on Woodward YouTube channel. All of our interviews are on there, everything from today and all of our past shows. And of course, you can listen as a podcast available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. The Tigers are off tonight, but tomorrow they kick off with a doubleheader against Minnesota. The first pitch of the first game will be at 2:10. So that means pregame on Fox Sports Detroit will start at 1 o'clock. And of course, you can listen to that on 97.1 The Ticket as well. We will be talking about this weekend series and much more next week on the Word on Woodward. So we'll see you next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in.